You're listening to Reignite, a podcast about beginnings, or, dare I say, origins. I'm Frankie.
And I am at AK Stormageddon.
Before Leliana was a sister at the Chantry, she was a bard in Orlais, working for Marjolaine. This DLC is a glimpse into the moment that changed the course of Leliana's life. With her friends Sketch and Tug, Leliana sets about to create chaos in Ferelden at Marjolaine's request. What starts as a night of rowdy mischief-making in the name of Orlais turns serious when Leliana realizes one of Marjolaine's tasks can result in treason and possibly death for all of them. Marjolaine allows Leliana the chance to fix their mistake, only to reveal that in the end, she was never on Leliana's side. The crew is captured and imprisoned, helpless, until a mysterious voice reminds Leliana of her own power. Once free of the prison, Leliana has the opportunity to get revenge for Marjolaine's betrayal. But what is the end of the story?
It's interesting when the DLC starts, it's narrated by Leliana, and she says that all of these details, something along the lines of how precise the details are, except the end. Like that the end is fuzzy or is different depending on who's telling the tale, giving this kind of opening to like recounting the story and changing, allowing us to make decisions essentially.
Yeah. I like the overall vibe of this DLC. Already it's a different tone, even from the game itself, because
Yeah.
it's so much focus on the act of storytelling, which makes sense for Leliana because she's a bard and that is very much her jam. Like, she
Yeah.
loves telling stories, she loves singing about stories. It's very important to her. So, when telling her own story, it makes sense that she would come at it with this air of the oral tradition and like you're sitting at the campfire with her and she is telling you about the time that Marjolaine betrayed her.
Yeah, this very much could come from the perspective of her and the warden sitting down together and her recanting the tale to the warden when you ask her about it. And I mean, there's sort of a version of that in the game. When you do ask her about more details about Marjolaine, she does tell you this story much more condensed. And so there's a world in which instead of that condensed version of it, this is like the longer tale that she's telling at the camp.
Yeah. Can I just say that one thing that low key bothered me throughout the entire DLC? And it isn't a complaint about the DLC. It's that when I made a choice for Leliana's dialogue, she said what I chose.
Yeah.
And I was just like, why couldn't this be a thing?
I mean, it's a BioWare thing, right? Because it's not even just in Dragon Age. Like, so often we complained in Mass Effect, we would choose what we wanted Shepard to say.
That's a very different complaint. That
Yeah.
complaint is a lack of context. The complaint that I'm making is that in Dragon Age Origins, there's no voice acting for the
Oh,
warden.
yeah. Yeah.
There's just no voice to identify the warden. And I think that is kind of one of the things that takes you out of the moment in a lot of ways.
Right. You feel more tied to the things Liliana's saying because she's saying what you're choosing, whereas the warden, the voice that we choose at the beginning of the game is only for the battle grunts. It has nothing to do with the warden
Yeah.
actually speaking.
However, you can make the argument that by not having a recorded voice to say what it is that you choose, you can more easily pretend that it's your voice
Yeah.
and connect more deeply with the character, which I'm sure is an argument that many would have regarding Baldur's Gate. Sure, I prefer there to be some voice acting.
Sure. I think also the big difference here and a more appropriate comparison to Mass Effect is Commander Shepard is a character beyond your design. You design Shepard to be like you, but Shepard has an existence
Right.
before you take control. So having a voice for Shepard having his or her or their own voice makes more sense. Whereas the Warden is completely created from scratch and technically sort of has no history before you take control. You do, but it's like it's briefly summarized, right? It's
Yeah.
it's it's less
Like, the warden definitely existed before our game started, whereas to draw a parallel, Baldur's Gate, the character that you play, the custom character that you create, that character has no memory
yeah,
before the moment that you start playing as them. So
right.
that really allows you to create a past and a history for them. It's just an interesting thing.
Yeah. Also, if the listeners can't tell, Frankie's been playing a lot of Baldur's Gate 3. So
Yes, and I will be playing when I leave this chat.
yeah, and I think we've teased it before. Baldur's Gate 3 is a consideration we've had for if we ever finish the world of BioWare. But all that said, yeah, I think it's interesting here that with Leliana, because we're playing a existing character in the world who's not the typical player character, there is more direct correlation to your choices and what she says in a way that a lot of other created characters we've had in the past just don't have. Well, let's start talking about what we actually do here, starting with some mischief that we get into in Ferelden. So when we arrive, it is us, Tug, and Sketch, our companions, as well as Marjolaine. And she essentially wants us to run rampant, causing chaos, as well as avenging some folks who have done her wrong within Ferelden.
Yes. So we have the task of stealing, dealing with some insults, and getting revenge. Let's start with stealing in the market. There are a couple of ways that this can be resolved. How did you approach stealing in the market?
So I can't remember what I stole first. I think
I don't remember what I stole in what order, but I know what I did with the goods.
yeah, I switched the goods around. I know that like I stole the antiquities and put them in a different chest, and then took the costumes and put them in a different chest.
Hmm.
And then I think there was a set of valuables also that I took, and I might have planted those on the guard. When we get
Okay.
to speaking about the guard specifically, I think I can remember what I've chosen. But
Okay.
but I do know that I did a mix of taking, planting. I don't know that I kept anything. I think I either planted in different chests or planted on the guard.
Okay. I forgot that planting stuff on the guard was a thing that you could do. Because the first thing I did was rummage through the chest and steal things, and then I was like, "Ooh, I could create some chaos by putting everybody's stuff in different chests, so that way
Right.
when they come to market in the morning, they're like, oh no!' And they're like, "You stole from me! No, you stole from me!" And I thought that would be funny. So I thought that kind of leaned into the idea of creating chaos and creating mischief.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean that only grows when we get to the next part where we have to kill the loose tongue, which is there's a I can't tell what he was, whether I think he was just a bandit maybe who's trying to get back into his hideout.
Yeah, we come across him when he's trying to get into the hideout, and we're like, you talk shit. Now it's
Yeah.
time to get hit.
Yeah.
You fucked
And
around, and now we find out.
And so we kill him, and then after we kill him, right, an important detail. On the way to this part of the mission, we see a guard unconscious, sound asleep, big cartoon Z's above his head to show us
Yes.
he's not dead, which I think is very funny. And so we comment on it, and Liliana goes, "Oh, if only, like, essentially, if only there were a way we could make this more embarrassing, if we could make his day more terrible." And then we go on to fight this bandit, we kill him, and then we're able to loot the body. I think it's very funny here that when Liliana picks up his body, she makes a comment about how heavy he is.
Yeah.
Just because in the main game, when you have to pick up a body and plant it somewhere, there is no comment made. It just goes
Hmm.
into your inventory as an inventory slot. And
Yeah.
so,
Liliana makes a comment, and her comment is like, they basically eat dirt. How is he so heavy?
yeah. And then one of the things you can do is you can plant this body on top of the guard. So when the guard wakes up from his nap, he'll just have a bloody dead body on top of him.
Hmm.
Uh, and so I did that. I assume you did as well.
I did as well.
And then from here, when we go to the other side of the market, we encounter a noble that we're supposed to insult. And what's very funny to me here is like we say, "Oh, we should go insult him," and then we start fighting them. And I'm like, "Where's the insult in fighting? I thought this was going to be like insult combat, like we were going to change words." And
Like vicious mockery.
yeah, like vicious mockery. And then we kill his guards, and I thought we killed him, but no, he also now is unconscious
Yes.
with giant cartoon Z's over his head. And you can apparently take his underwear, not his
Yes.
clothes,
His
but his
underwear.
underwear. And so I took the underwear, and then I thought to myself, well, we're talking about embarrassing the guard captain. Can I plant the undergarments on him? And yes, you can, which I did.
I put them on the chantry board.
That's a good place for them. I didn't even know you could do that. That's pretty funny.
Yep. I don't know if there are other locations you can put them, but those are the two that I know about. The chantry board I just think is really funny.
I mean, yeah, it is really funny and
Because
something I would
also
play
fuck the
for.
chantry.
Right, exactly. I don't know. There's always something about putting someone's underwear on someone else's head that is just always funny to me because I guess I'm a 5-year-old at heart,
You are.
and so I couldn't resist that. And then like at the resolution of all of this, before you go to the next section, you can plant some other items on the guard. So as I discussed, like I believe I planted valuables and the underwear on the guard as well as the body.
Oh,
I
I'm sorry. Before we get to that,
Yeah,
there was one optional quest that took place during this section,
right.
and that was the Mage's Cache. Did you find that?
So I found two of them. I couldn't find the last one, and
Uh-huh.
so I eventually like I know you eventually get like a mage like something from the mage's stash once you find it, but
Mhm.
I ended up proceeding with the quest without finding it, so I
Okay.
never finished it.
I did find it. I had to fight a very angry mage and a golem in order to get it. Uh, and Liliana's like, Sketch, I thought you said that like they were harmless, and he was just like, mostly harmless. I don't really hang out with these guys. And I'm just like, Sketch.
I want to say that in the 5 minutes I've been with Sketch and Tug, I like them more than half the characters in the main
I
game.
know they're
Like
so great.
the
I
characters in this section are so well written, and it drives me crazy that this is only like a one-off hour or two DLC. Because like Sketch, I really liked.
Yeah, I liked him too. I ship Sketch and Tug.
Oh my! Well, the best part is at one point, like when Marjolaine first leaves us in the beginning of the mission, Tug does the equivalent of "hate to see her go, like love to watch her leave," and Sketch
Yeah.
is like Tug, and then at some point later, Sketch says something, and Tug essentially hits on him also. And I was like, I love this. Wherever this
Yes.
is going, I'm here for it.
It makes me very happy. But yes, so I got the like mage medallion or whatever it was. It was a marker of allegiance to mages.
Hmm.
So now we can talk about what we did to the captain.
Yeah, and so I planted the. I don't think I planted the clothes. I think the clothes I put in another chest, but I put the valuables on him, the underwear on him, and the dead body on him.
I did the dead body and I did the mage's medallion. And I think I got something else I was able to put on him, but I don't remember what it was.
Okay.
But yeah.
So after we complete this, we reunite with Marjolaine, who it hadn't occurred to me in the main campaign. And either I'm dense or it wasn't as obvious, but clearly Leliana and Marjolaine are lovers of some kind
Yeah.
here. They're intimate of some kind.
You didn't
Um,
pick that up from the main game?
I don't know. Maybe I did. It just didn't seem super obvious to me in the same way that it's obviously obvious here because they're flirting very heavily, using soft voices and all of that.
Not to like make you seem like you did anything wrong or you missed something, but to me it was very obvious because Marjolaine calls her pretty thing when you reconnect. There's this heavy, heavy subtext of an abusive relationship and
Mm,
manipulation. Like Marjolaine is a narcissist and
sure.
she believes that Leliana would act the same way she would act. So that's why there's this tension between the two of them because Marjolaine sees herself and not Leliana.
Right. I mean, I think the pretty thing comment, like, I could see that as a way to demoralize someone who is very pretty that you're not interested in if you're just looking to psychologically and physically abuse someone. And to me, that didn't inherently mean romantic connection. Now, it's very obvious here. And again, probably when we dug deeper with Liliana, it was made more obvious also. It's hard to keep all of the details in my brain, but all of that aside, it is very obvious here.
Yeah. To me, in main game, it read like, this is the pet name that I have for you, and I'm
Right.
using it on you to hurt you again.
Right. Yeah. Which makes sense. It totally makes sense. And so when we finish this section, Marjolaine informs us that we're not done yet. We are actually going to break into the Arl of Denerim's estate and plant some papers that will implicate him.
Before we break into the estate, I just want to
Yeah.
comment Marjolaine's laughter
Oh, throughout the mission when you're running
throughout the
around.
mission, it's so fucking obnoxious. At first, I
Yeah.
thought it was Leliana, but I was like, this is happening way too much for it to be Leliana. And I
Yeah.
realized it was Marjolaine, and I'm just like, I hate you. I hate everything about you. And it's probably because I already know
Right.
Like the outcome of this story, I already know that she betrays Leliana, but also everything that she says, everything that she does, she's very clearly grooming Leliana, and it
Yeah.
makes me so uncomfortable.
Yeah. Well, and I think is the point, and also the laughter. Like to me, for lack of a better analog, reminds me of like the Joker laugh, and especially
Ooh.
in like types of Batman stories where the Joker is heard but not seen, right? Cackling at you as you try to accomplish things. It felt demoralizing in the same way. Like she's laughing at the outcome, she's laughing at you stumbling in the dark trying to get these things done or fighting guards or whatever else, or like if you can't figure out where to go in the town, like all of that is what seems to trigger the laughter, and it is like it's meant to get under your skin.
I hate it. Um, One really interesting thing about Liliana overall throughout this DLC is that she's so different. She's playful, she's teasing, and we can also play her dialogue as kind of mean if we want, which definitely makes sense under Marjolaine's influence. Let me take that again. Which definitely makes sense under Marjolaine's influence. When you chose dialogue options, how did you find yourself leaning?
I mean, I led more like kind of goofy or playful than mean, mostly because that's I think the person. Like again, I'm playing as Liliana, but the whole point of our playthroughs is to as if we were making the choices, and this gives you that opportunity. And just playful and kind of coy made more sense to me. I don't know. Even though this is not the same Liliana, it didn't feel right to me either as myself or as Liliana to play it straight up mean or ruthless. It
Oh
just
yeah.
didn't feel right.
Oh yeah. I didn't lean into the mean or ruthless, but I definitely chose a mean line or two just because I thought it was funny.
Sure, or if I was annoyed in that moment, like I think we'll get to it later, but like in the third act before you go to the final mission, I definitely was very snarky and pissy then because I was frustrated.
So ba-da-ba-ba, we go to the Arl's residence.
Yep. And the plan here is for us to cause as much chaos as possible on the way to his quarters to plant these documents that will incriminate him, make him look like he's just fooling around and stuff that he shouldn't be. And at this point, we don't know the contents of the documents. We just know that we need to plant them.
Yes. And this is when we get bisexual Tug because he says, "Love it when you talk like that." You too, Sketch.
It's just very good.
I love them. They're so silly and they're just such good friends.
Yeah,
Did you bury the soldiers to make Sketch happy?
I did.
I did too. I was like, please stop whining.
Yeah, I it did annoy me though that like so once I had all the bodies, I went to the fountain. I couldn't put them in the fountain. I went to a
Mhm.
giant vase. I couldn't put them in the giant vase. I'm like, what the hell? Where are these bodies supposed to go? And then there was like sparkly dirt, and I was like, oh, okay, I guess I'm supposed to
Sparkly
bury
dirt.
them.
That's me. I'm sparkly dirt.
I mean, yes, pretty much. And so then I buried them, and Sketch was very happy.
You're the sparkly dirt of my heart, Matt.
Okay, episode title: Sparkly Dirt of My Heart. Anyway, so we bury the bodies and then we go into the hideout. Liliana notices a window from a small tree that she can climb up and through, which is like funny to me because Liliana says, I can make it through that window. The other two say nothing. And like,
Yeah.
I would figure Tug would have a problem.
Tug would definitely need assistance.
Yeah. Hoist the dwarf.
I'd love to see that cutscene.
I would. Exactly.
Let's just skip ahead a little bit because the fighting is boring, as we know. Marjolaine is seducing a commander, which throws Liliana for a loop, which, if it were me and like this is my romantic partner, but also my partner in crime, and I saw that, I don't know if I would jump straight to like something suspicious is happening here. I think my first thought would be like, oh, they're creating a distraction for me so I can get into the room I need.
Can you tell which of the two of us is in the poly relationship? Because for me, as someone who is, for the most part, my entire life been in monogamous relationships, and who definitely is better about it now, but when I was younger, could be pretty jealous of even my own partners, just
You
because
jealous?
I know, because I mean, it's my brain, right?
Mm,
I just it's a lot of past trauma that causes it. But
yeah,
anyway, if I saw that,
no,
I
that's
would
valid.
I would lean into what Liliana was. I was like, what the hell is she doing? This makes me feel gross. I don't know what's going on. Uh, which is essentially how Liliana takes it, is like, why is she courting this guard? But whatever, let's just do what we came here to do.
Yeah. And once we get into the room and we start planting the files, it becomes very clear that something is wrong, and these papers are actually Orlesian.
Yeah, and that this could be a cause for treason that could get everyone killed. And as soon as Liliana reads them and looks at them, she immediately is not okay with it anymore.
Yeah.
And of course, in that moment, Marjolaine is magically in the doorway to set you at ease.
Yeah. And she brushes off all of your concerns.
Yep.
We do return to the hideout where we can have a bit of a moment to rest, get some gear from Bonnie Lem, who is a fence that works with Marjolaine. We can talk to Marjolaine about how upset we are. And God, like I said, she is such a narcissist. And all the language that she uses is really manipulative. And I really wish we had Tug and Sketch in the room because this involves them too.
Yeah, but unfortunately, you can only talk to them separately, because before you
Yeah,
talk to Marjolaine, you can just talk to them, get their sense, and both of them pretty much say like, "I don't know, I'm not going to rock the boat. Like,
yeah,
I have nowhere else to go. I don't even know if I want to go." Like Sketch is like, "I don't even know if I want to go back to Orlais, but all I know is that I'm safest with I'm with you all, and I don't want to
yeah,
like shake that up." And
yeah,
Tug
for
essentially
sure.
says he's he's a sword for hire. He doesn't really ask questions, and also both of them are like, you get all the details. We never know what the plan is. So the fact that you're upset about some of the details, like you have to take that up with Marjolaine because she doesn't tell us anything.
Yeah. Also, there is this moment where Sketch says something where he's kind of trying to brush it off, but Tug is like, no, here's specifically why you do X thing. And I'm like, the two of you, you're so sweet. I love you.
Yeah. They're like either your best buds or their boyfriends or both.
Yes. Um, but yeah, there's a moment where Marjolaine says, fine, fine, we'll set everything to rights. And Liliana is worried. And Marjolaine's just like, remember, you asked for this, which puts everything on Liliana and makes it her fault instead of Marjolaine taking responsibility and saying, you're right, we shouldn't have like done this. I should have let you know what the papers were. I should have given you the option to say no.
Well, right. The whole conversation here is fine, we'll go get them if you want to, right? It's
Yeah.
like she's just making it sound like we're only doing this to make you happy, but I want to make you happy, so I'm going to do this. But this is all for you, Liliana. This is all your fault. And it is absolutely manipulative language that I've heard before and that we've heard in games before and talked about in games before. And like it is clear she is trying to puppeteer Liliana at this point.
Yes. Jumping forward a bit, we are back at the Earl of Denerim's estate. It seems very deserted leading up to getting the papers back because Marjolaine is supposedly drawing them off elsewhere in the estate.
Yep.
As we travel through the estate, we eventually do meet some soldiers whom we fight, and we come across Marjolaine, and Leliana's trying to think up an escape route. Marjolaine has the audacity to like try and soothe her before straight up stabbing her.
Yeah, as we approach, Liliana even says, "Why is Marjolaine just standing there? We should be running. We should be escaping." And then you have this conversation where she's trying to set you at ease, but also kind of telling you that everything's gone wrong because of you, and then stabs you.
Yeah. And we find out that the commander was in on it. He comes out, he says this really gross line, like, we'll get the truth out of you once we've had our fun. And I'm just like, disgusting, disgusting. I hate it here. I hate everything about this.
Yep. And you, as you're dropping to your knees, you turn to see your companions also surrounded and kidnapped, and then you get clubbed and knocked out.
Yes. And when we wake up, we are in prison. And that image that opens up on Liliana sprawled out on the floor with a knife. I think there's a knife near her.
Yeah, I think she had pulled out the knife, but
Yeah, I think
there's
she pulled
blood
out the
around
knife.
her. Yeah.
And like just the positioning of the blood, like between her splayed legs, it was just. it evokes this imagery of sexual assault, and it made me like so viscerally upset.
Yeah. I mean, well, I think what really sends it home for that feeling is the quiet sobbing, specifically the quiet sobbing, not the like hysterical
Hmm.
crying. It's just like this quiet sob, this almost stifled, like no one can know kind of sob
Yeah.
that I think really sends that home. And yeah, you're meant to feel incredibly uncomfortable here, and it's awful.
And then there is a light and a voice.
This is very cheesy. So yeah, there's a voice from the grates above you, but there is a glowing white light. You cannot see who it is. And now, of course, if you're underground and it's dark and it's really bright outside above you, that could happen. But this is also a little bit for effect. Um,
Yes.
but this is an almost godly voice reaching down to you, telling you that you can't give up here, you can't lay down and die. It's what she wants. You have to fight back. You are capable of fighting back.
Yes. There is this element of religious imagery
Hmm.
because this is, in a way, Leliana's resurrection, right?
Yeah,
Like, Marjolaine thought that Leliana is being left for dead, that she's going to die, but she rises again. So there is that kind of, not even Andrastian, but a little of that Christian imagery
yeah.
that mainstream media is used to.
Yeah, and this voice tells you that you can't give up, you have to get up, and then drops down a wrapped cloth, which has a weapon and a key,
Hmm.
so you can escape. And then this part of the mission is us escaping from the dungeon. Most of the combat is pretty straightforward. It's a lot of running down a hallway, seeing a giant gate, can't open the giant gate, open a
Go through the
door,
nearest door.
see a lever in through the nearest door, fight the guards, open the lever.
Yeah.
The moment of import is the first one where you find Sketch and
Silas.
a warrior named Silas, who are both imprisoned. When you save them, you then also notice that on one of the torture beds is Tug, who is dead.
No, I'm
Oh, is that a separate room?
a separate room.
Oh, is it a separate room? Okay.
So you save Sketch and Silas. You get some gear. You get to redistribute things. Tug is not with them.
Oh, right. Yes.
Sketch does not know what happened. You run through the hallways together. You find the room that has Tug, and he is dead on one of the torture tables. And you find out from Sketch that he was riling up the guards on purpose to put them off from going after Sketch first
Right.
because they were
That's why I thought they were
yeah,
in the same room because he tells that story. But you're right. Yeah, you don't
yeah,
find out until you find him later.
because the guards were threatening to take Sketch's hands, and he can't do magic without his hands.
Yeah. Uh, and also, like, it's funny. What gave up the ghost a little bit mechanically is we got two party members and one was a warrior. And I went, why do I have a human warrior? Oh no, where's Tug? So
Yeah.
like it kind of gave up the ghost early, but even still when you see him there, like it's I was upset. I was more upset about Tug's death than just about any other character in the main game that I can think of, which says something about the writing of this DLC.
Yeah, like you don't get that much time with Tug, but that still like that sucked. And the fact that Tug knew that he was basically sacrificing himself just to give Sketch a little more time, not
Yeah.
even to guarantee that Sketch would be saved, but just to give Sketch more time. That is such an act of love,
Yeah.
and it made me love Tug all the more.
And also is very gay.
It is very gay. Like there's an element of queerness to it, but there's also an element of family to it.
Of course, sure. And it could go either way, but in
It
my
could.
in but in my preference, everything's gay until proven
Yes,
otherwise.
we prefer it to be gay, but if you're making an argument about more family oriented, then yes, we
Yes.
also agree.
Right. Well, yeah, because there's this, like I said, the writing of these three characters, like their friendship is apparent, immediate. I'm inclined to compare it actually to Sea of Stars, which we both played, and like the two main characters and Garl, like they're best friends from like hour two. Like as soon as you get to adventure with them, like it's just obvious the way they talk to each other, and you can't help but believe in their friendship throughout that whole game. And like we
Yeah.
got that in minutes within this DLC, which is really impressive.
As we progress through the dungeon, we encounter more of this religious imagery because as you're escaping, you are running specifically into the light,
Yeah.
which can stand as a portal to the afterlife. And again, this concept of resurrection and becoming a new person, which lands us into the chantry, where we wake up and distress this very poor sister who's just like, I think she's going to stab me. Someone help.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like the cutscene as you leave the dungeon has this bright light in a doorway as you walk through. It only shows Liliana walking through it. We don't see her companions at all. And then
Right.
even when you wake up, they're nowhere to be found in that room. But like it's funny because the scene starts with just kind of like a scream, and then it cuts to the revered mother walking into the room to this poor terrified sister with a knife to her throat, and Liliana looking very upset.
Yes. And I think it's important that the image is just Liliana heading
Yeah,
towards the light, because
of
this
course.
is this is Liliana's resurrection. It's not about Sketch, unfortunately, and it's not about Silas. It is entirely about Liliana's journey and the person that she becomes as a result of it.
Well, and also it's a story being told by Liliana that's set up from the beginning. And
Yeah,
so the imagery that we're seeing could also be her not necessarily manipulating, but maybe embellishing a little bit the
her
story.
interpretation.
Right, correct.
So we meet Dorothea, and you know what? I don't need the slashy intro screen from now on.
No, yeah, every time.
In
Every
the first
character.
minute, it made sense.
Right? It was like a start of a heist movie. You're showing all the
Yes,
characters. I get it. But yeah, literally every new character gets one. We're about to get one for Silas because we didn't get it earlier.
I
It's
hate
just,
it.
it's so annoying.
It takes me so out of the moment. I'm just like, oh my god. Okay, I get it. I know who this is. Thank you.
Like if like Bioware, if you want to do a Dragon Age Ocean's 11 game where it's
Yes.
a whole heist and like we get those flashy intros for every new character in the first
Get
hour of an
whoever
8-hour
worked
game.
on the Citadel DLC where you infiltrated the casino, whoever worked on that section, I
Yeah,
want you. I want you for my Ocean's End 7 slash Dragon Age crossover event. I want to play
yeah,
a heist.
yeah.
I want it to be about Rollick Quarn.
The unfortunate truth is that those folks may not even be at Bioware anymore,
I
but it's
know,
a
it's so
whole other.
upsetting.
Yeah, I don't know that we mentioned on the podcast, but there were major layoffs at Bioware not that long ago.
Yeah. I
Uh,
try not to think about it.
Leadership has left as well, and so like we don't know the state that Dreadwolf or Mass Effect Next is in, and it's frustrating. But anyway, if not,
Honestly, I'm sorry to interrupt your thought,
no,
but
no, it's okay.
honestly, I think we maybe should do a State of BioWare at the end of Dragon Age Origins,
Yeah,
just so we can be better informed ourselves and manage expectations for anyone who maybe doesn't know what's going on.
sure, yeah. I mean that's a good idea, and also I know for a fact that our sister show Normandy FM does occasionally do bio bits where they check in with Bioware, so you can get some info there too if you're looking for it.
Mm,
Um, but all of that said, if those people are no longer at Bioware, then go make a team about a different fantasy group doing a heist. Essentially, make a video game
please.
version of the new D&D movie and make it a
Yes.
Ocean style heist. Like, let's go. Let's do it. Wizards of the Coast clearly wants to share that license. Like, let's go. Let's just do that.
Heist, heist, heist,
Heist, heist.
heist, heist, heist.
Anyway,
Everybody. I'm
so
sorry.
we talk with Dorothea, and it sounds like Dorothea at one point was also betrayed by Marjolaine and knows her quite
Yeah.
well, and wants to help you because she's seen all this before.
So, a couple of things. There are two quotes from Dorothea that I think we see Leliana take into her heart when we meet Leliana in the main game, which is, "You would look good with braids."
Yes.
That's just a funny one. But
Yeah.
then a very powerful one is, "You are never powerless when others are in need." And I think that's something that Leliana definitely takes into her heart, because she chooses to put herself in danger because others need her to. That's why she leaves the chantry.
Yeah.
She says it's because the maker told her to, and that could be why, but it's also a way of her saying that her intuition, her gut, like everything in her says that she can't just hide in the chantry when people need her.
Yeah.
Also, like you said, we find out that Dorothea is a victim of Marjolaine's. It is heavily implied that Marjolaine slept with her or romanced her or did something to gain her trust, to get the information she needed, and then betrayed her. And that makes this a moment of women helping women, women rescuing women
Right.
from their abusers.
Yeah.
And I think that's really powerful. And that's not a narrative that we have really seen in Dragon Age Origins. The only time that you maybe see that narrative is if you play the City Elf origin, because that has so much to do with rape and sexual assault that if you play as a female City Elf, then you get this element of women standing up for themselves and each other. But it's not done with the same depth and care that this is. Because Dorothea is not stepping in because it is her religious duty. She's stepping in because she knows what it's like to be abused and betrayed and manipulated, and she doesn't want that for Leliana, and she wants to help Leliana escape her abuser.
Yeah. And so you're given information, you're told where Marceline can be found, and you're encouraged to go after her and set her straight. But she also recommends that you gear up and rest first, but to find her when you're ready to go. And this gives you an opportunity to talk to Sketch about everything that's happened.
Yeah. That's when we find out that Tug stalled for him,
Yeah. And then we also get to officially meet Silas.
officially.
We get a splash screen. He's in full armor now. And he pretty much tells us about what Raleigh has done to him and that he wants revenge and that
Yes. His
he is
very boring backstory of how he went poaching.
yeah. And so he says to you that he also feels bad for you and the wrongs. He knows like what you've gone through, and he wants to fight by your side and help you if it means getting his hands on Raleigh again.
Yeah.
He seems very noble. I don't mind him as a character, even though we
He's
don't get a
a
ton from. But as far as warriors go, he's not the most boring one we've ever met.
he's kind of in my opinion boring because we don't really learn anything about
Yeah,
him. I think he's very basic. He's very much a clean slate. And I think that's because no character that they introduce is ever going to replace Tug.
correct. And they needed you to have a balanced party,
Right.
so they essentially created this warrior to be that, and also tie something else of the story to Raleigh besides just you wanting revenge, to give
Right.
you a choice later, which we'll get to.
Yeah. I wish there had been maybe even a side quest for Silas to attach us to him a little bit more.
Right, like a thing we do in the canyon path before getting to the blighted cliffs, like maybe a side quest or something.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be long, just something to give us that little extra lore push,
Yeah,
or maybe just some really well done dialogue. I don't know, but I feel like we didn't get that with Silas. And like I said, nobody's going to replace Tug, but I still think that we needed just a little bit more connection to him.
I would agree, though. I'd also say that I think this DLC was a perfect length. If it had been extended too much,
Yeah,
it would have felt dragging on.
I agree with that as well. That's why I think just something small
Right.
needed to be
Even
included.
even discussion comment, or like even sketch saying, because they shared a cell together, maybe sketch filling us in on something, lost a spouse, or wants revenge for his children. I don't know, whatever. You
Something.
you could insert some generic fantasy origin here, and it would still at least give it more character than what it's got.
Yeah. I had a moment where I genuinely thought Dorothea is getting Liliana set up to commit murder,
Yeah.
but Dorothea says to her before she leaves, allow yourself to be surprised by the choices that you make. And I think that what Dorothea is really doing is giving Liliana the opportunity to get closure and to decide what kind of person she's going to be.
Yeah. I do think also a minor funny moment here is the fence that was in your hideout is here at the
Bonnie
Chantry.
Lem.
Bonnie Lem, and when you talk to him, he's like, "What are you doing here?" He's like, "Well, once I saw stuff going down, I wanted out of there. I
Yeah.
didn't trust Marjolaine anymore."
But also he's like, but I couldn't blame her.
And it's just like he's such a goofy character.
I'd have done the same thing. Let's be real.
Yeah, I just think it's very funny that like they gave him a tiny little backstory just so
I
they can
hate him.
explain why you could
I
sell
love
and
him, but I
buy.
hate him. He's
Yeah,
so
yeah,
dumb.
yeah, totally.
Oh my god. It was a very good workaround for oh, you're probably gonna need some more health potions, aren't you?
Yeah, pretty much, or some injury kits. Yeah.
All right. So we head over to the windswept shore.
There's a cutscene here where it shows us arriving in a dinghy, a little boat, while Marjolaine and Raleigh watch and yell at us from the bridge. It's
Yeah,
like, it's just this cutscene felt very awkward and unnecessary.
I
Like
agree.
they wanted, I guess they wanted the villains to know the heroes were on their way and like have a banter, but it just felt unnecessary.
Yeah, I would have preferred if instead of that, we got something with Silas.
Yes.
Like, that would have been a good moment. Like, forget the taunting from Leliana, not Leliana, from Marjolaine and Raleigh. Instead, we could have had a moment where, like, wait a minute, we need to have a come to Jesus. We need to have a come to Andraste about this.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think the taunting that they have, which was important to show how untouchable they felt, could have happened in right before the final battle, like
Yeah.
as they ran off, and like they could have done that. But anyway, so we arrive on the windswept shore, we fight a bunch of guards, then we go to the canyon path,
We fight more
we
guards.
fight a bunch more guards. There's a little more taunting and yelling from Raleigh as he runs off. Nothing of real import here. We fight
Yeah.
our way through the canyon path to the Blighted Cliffs, and when we arrive, Raleigh runs to the edge of the Blighted Cliffs, has a mage put a force field on him and themselves, and then summons a dragon for us to fight.
Yup.
A small dragon, but still
A
a
little
dragon.
dragon. It was a wee little dragon.
And then after you fight the dragon, you immediately you rest up really quick if anyone's been knocked unconscious, and then you fight this mage and Raleigh. Again, these battles are kind of uninteresting. There's no
Yeah.
phases. There's no unique mechanics. Once we beat the mage and Raleigh, we are given a cutscene where you confront Raleigh near the edge of the cliff, and exchange words, and then you're given a choice. You can either kill Raleigh yourself, or you can step away and let Silas kill Raleigh.
What did you do?
I stepped away. I chose I made the choice to step away and let Silas kill Raleigh, mostly because A, he had a specific vendetta, and B, it gave me the thing that I wanted Leliana to say, which is, I'm done with you and I'm done with this. I have no need to kill you. Like this kind of walking away from all of this. Like, I've humiliated you. That's enough. And then Silas steps in and just shoves him off the cliff.
So I chose for Liliana to do the killing because, like
Hmm.
I said, there was that strong implication of sexual assault in the
Sure.
dungeon.
Yeah.
And for me, I think there's power in a victim reclaiming themselves
Of course.
by punishing their abuser. So for me, I felt it was important for Liliana to just be like, and you're done.
That makes sense. I think also the imagery, again, to me, didn't read that clearly until we discussed it here, but
Right.
it does make sense. But also, again, for me, it was just the logic of, well, Silas really wants him dead. So you know what? Have fun.
That's valid. And
Which is
also,
also key to the personality of the way I was playing Liliana, of like
right.
still toying with people.
And also, my read on it could be completely incorrect. It could be me projecting because
It's possible.
I have been coming to term with my own sexual assault recently, and it has sucked. And now I kind of see it a little more clear in certain images, and whether that's just me processing or because it's actually there, that is up for debate. But for me, this is how I read the scene. This is what made sense for me narratively.
For sure. And I think there's no right answer here. I think it's because we're just left with that scene and how we are introduced to Liliana in the jail cell. We were meant to make our own inferences based on that. So we could both be right, we could both be wrong. But I think it's interesting how it made us split here and not, as we always do, choose the same choice. We actually chose different choices.
Yay! It was bound to happen sometime.
Yeah.
So Leliana killed Raleigh. For you, Silas killed Raleigh. And then we have Marjolaine. She's gross and I hate her.
Yes.
Some quotes that lean into her narcissistic nature. You would turn on me, so I did it first. We are the same. And that is the moment where, you can have Liliana just be like, no, we really aren't.
Yeah. And it's interesting the wording that Marjolaine uses, especially that first quote, where you would inevitably betray me, so I betrayed you first. That's the sign of a deeply untrusting person who just decides, instead of waiting for the other shoe to drop, I'll drop it myself. I'll do it myself.
Yeah, exactly. Ugh. I felt that this DLC as a whole was really well written. Like, the way that I feel about Marjolaine is intentional. You're supposed to feel that way about Marjolaine. Like,
Yeah.
that is a sign of them understanding the character that they were writing and the audience that they were writing for. And I really appreciated that. And I wish that there had been some more of these in-depth moments, of these really thoughtful narrative moments in the original game. Like, I enjoyed the story of the original game. I just felt like a lot of narrative moments were very surface level, whereas this felt much deeper to me.
Yeah, it seemed like they were able to quite focus in. I also like a quote that I believe we get from Liliana at the end as it's resolving. All things change when they find purpose.
Yeah, I wrote that down too.
I really like that because I think it's for one it's true, but also I think it really is key to Liliana's character and a great summation of everything that's happened.
Right.
Like Liliana found purpose in Marjolaine, and when that turned out to be like a sham, essentially, like the new purpose was brought on by change and this shift towards the chantry and everything else. Um, but yeah, no, I agree. I think the writing here is fantastic. I think it's one of the first storylines we've played in a while where I'm like, this was really impressive writing. I think I agree with you. Like the overall story of Origins is why I play the game because it's not for the combat. But I think the strength of Origins is it's in its individual character writing, not the overall narrative. We've
Yes, I
expressed our
agree with that.
complaints with how Logain is written and some other characters and how certain things are presented. Whereas here, this is pretty tight. I think that this hour to
Mhm.
2 hours feels like a nice, complete short story or short film that is done quite well and it makes me more interested in Liliana as a character.
I think also you and I are very character driven media enjoyers.
Sure.
Like, I think that the media we tend to lean to incorporates these like rich backstories and these fully developed characters and just these people that we can relate to very deeply. And like some examples I can think of off the top of my head are like Leverage, for example. Sea of Stars has these really rich, deep characters. What was something else that you and I really loved?
Doctor Who, early Doctor Who was full of
Early
deep, rich
Doctor Who is
characters.
very much about character study.
Yeah. I mean, the later stuff is too in a different way, but that the early stuff is what we watched together. Even for me, Spider Man, I'm playing Spider Man 2 right now. And like
Hmm.
Miles and Peter are both such deeply flawed and interesting characters. It's why Spider Man is one of the most successful comics ever written, right? Because both Miles and Peter are heroes that you can relate to because they've got everyday struggles to relate to school, they can't pay their mortgage, whatever else, right? Like it's their everyday struggles that you bring you into these characters who can also lift a truck and throw it, right?
Yeah,
And I think that kind of relatability in fantasy stories as well is what makes them much richer.
yeah. And I think that's why ensemble pieces work so well for me
Right.
personally. Like, if you're a person who loves an ensemble cast, then read Six of Crows by Lee Bardugo. You will not be disappointed. I love an ensemble. So there were some optional quests. We talked about one, which was the Mage's Cache. You didn't finish that one. I did. I don't think I finished the armor collection for the Orlesian battle dress. Did you?
I did not know.
Okay. What about honoring Tug? Did you
So
do
I didn't
that
even
one?
know you could do this. Yeah,
I didn't know that you could do this either. Like, I saw that you received it as a gift, but I had this moment of like, I don't know who this is for, and I have other things I need to worry about, and I
yeah.
feel so bad.
Yeah, it wasn't clear to me. The game doesn't make it obvious or make it a quest, and so I completely missed it.
Yeah, I really wish that I had known to give it. I would have given it to Sketch,
Yeah,
like to honor our friend's memory. Of, like, this is something you should have. And like I'm sad that I didn't do that because what if I got a cutscene out of it?
yeah,
I wish that had been a little more specific.
I agree.
Okay. So overall, I think we can agree that this was a successful piece of DLC.
Yeah, I think it's the best one we've played so far, barring the stuff that we played throughout the actual game. Like of the bonus stuff we've played, like this is easily hand over fist better than the Darkspawn DLC with ease.
Yes, absolutely.
And so, but also I think a really good standalone DLC. Like the great thing about this is you could play this before you play Dragon Age Origins.
Yes.
Like and in fact, I would recommend anyone listening, if you for some reason still haven't played Dragon Age Origins, which like thanks for
Weird.
being here, I guess, but weird. Play this DLC first. I think it's worth it. I think it really puts Liliana's character in a really interesting frame and gives you a lot of backstory that like also doesn't spoil the main story of the game. So
Yeah. I think that the reason this works so well for me personally is because it deepens the lore, but not in a way that would limit you if you were to not play it.
yeah, correct. It's just additional storytelling, which is
Yes.
always nice.
Yes. And that is always what I think makes good DLC. Like,
Yeah.
if it tells me a story, fantastic. But if it tells me a story that I need for context for the main game, then this should just be in the main game.
Right. And that's what a lot of BioWare DLC has been. And we've
Yeah.
talked about in previous seasons, which is okay. It's just, it's hard when that's introduced later. Although, I mean, at least if a good DLC that's attached to the story is attached to the story in a post game way, not a, you won't understand the man game without it, like that's also fine. But I do
Mhm.
like stuff like this that is just literally extra storytelling and extra character development.
Yeah. All right. So next up, we're going to tackle another DLC that has an official name that I am definitely not stalling to look up for right now. And
Smooth.
it is called the Golems of Amgarak.
God bless you.
Thank you. That's the Golems of Amgarak.
Okay. Yeah, we're gonna do the Golem DLC next. Then we'll probably do Witch Hunt and then Awakening, obviously, last. This one, as far as I can tell, is another short one. I know nothing about it, so I'm very curious.
Yeah, do you want me to give you the two-sentence primer?
Sure.
The Golems of Amgarak DLC tasks your warden with tracking down Jarek Dace's brother Brogan and finding out what happened to his expedition in Amgarak.
Interesting. Okay. I mean, we'll see. So we play as our warden in this one also.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Interesting.
Yeah, so that is the Golems of Amgarak next. It is also a standalone DLC that you can play at any time. Yeah. So if you like what you heard here, don't forget to follow us on social media. We love interacting with you, and you can do that at Reignite Pod on Twitter, Tumblr, Instagram, Facebook.com/ReignitePod, or you can send us an email at reignitepod@gmail.com. You can also find us on Twitter and Blue Sky. For me, I'm on Twitter at Frankie B. Writes. I'm on Blue Sky also as Frankie B. Writes. Matt is on Twitter as Fun and Games Pod, and he is on, or sorry, and they are on Blue Sky as DJ Stormageddon. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe on your favorite podcatcher if you can. It helps us get seen so other people can find us.
Seriously, it's been a long time since we've gotten a new review. So review us on, please review us on the on Apple Podcasts. We like to read your reviews. Please review us. Um, we're also members of the Certain Point of View Podcast Network. You can visit certainpov.com to find more nerdy podcasts, each with a unique point of view. You can also find a permanent invite link to our Discord server, both on that very website and in the show notes down below. And join in our conversation. We are having some great conversations about TV, movies, books, and video games. We have a dedicated channel to Baldur's Gate 3 because we could not contain the excitement to just the general chat. And by couldn't contain, I mean it was all people were talking about.
Yes. And also, I thought that it would make it easier for people who are not playing it to still engage in the same chat.
Right. It allows folks who want to talk with spoiler tags about that game to not like clutter the main channel where we're kind
Yeah.
of just broadly talking about games and the games industry. So yeah, go join that Discord. It's really a lot of fun. It's been more active than ever, and we have some really great folks hanging out over there.
Hell yeah. So, personal plugs. I continue to be but a humble PhD researcher. If you like what I contribute to the show, you can kick me a few bucks on Venmo at Frankie Brad is hella rad or Revolut at Frankie B Writes. Also, keep an ear out maybe because my PhD cohort and I might be setting up an English department podcast. I don't know, it was a dumb idea that we had, so we'll see what happens with that.
If you want to know more about it, I'm sure you'll hear about it here first.
Yes.
Uh, For me, you can always go to djstormageddon.com to check out my merch, all of my podcasts, and literally, I think, all of my social media. There's also a wish list there. My birthday was recently, if you want to buy me a present. But
Hell yeah, buy Matt presents.
but also, you can. I think the best thing you can do for me is go check out the Patreon for Fun and Games podcast, mostly because social media is a nightmare and always on fire. And if you want to keep up with the other video game stuff I do, that's the best place to do it. We put all of our free content on the Patreon as well as some paid content. So it's really kind of turned into this blog for that podcast. So if you want some more general video game stuff, definitely go check that out. Jeff and I had recently talked about our thoughts on Sea of Stars and other spiritual successors. So that might be worth checking out. Yeah. I think that's it. And then also, of course, we'd like to thank Carter's husband, the one and only Case Aiken, for developing amazing t-shirt designs that you can find on certainpov.com or on the Certain POV Teespring. Also, Case designs each individual episode show art. And so if you like those cool graphics, that's where they come from.
We'd like to thank Reddick Wade and Echoes of Oblivion for our theme music. Thank you so much.
And of course, we would like to thank Red Spinks for our brand new logo. To see more of his work, you can go to Chaos Does Art on Instagram.
Is it still brand new if it's been almost a year?
God, it's really already been almost a year. Time is weird.
Time is a lake. Anyway, I'm Frankie.
And I am at AK Stormageddon. Remember, Grey Wardens.
In war, victory.
In peace, vigilance.
In death, sacrifice.
Okay,
bye!
Hey.
Oh, hey, Jeff.
What's going on, guys?
Oh, talking about Superman.
Oh, cool. I could talk about Superman.
I could talk some more about Superman.
We know.
I'll bet a few people would want to get in on this.
I'm down.
You know it.
That sounds like fun. I'll do it.
Cool, let's do it. We can call the show Men of Steel.
And you can find it at certainpov.com.
Or wherever you get your podcasts.
Yay.
CPOV. CertainPOV.com.